Hello, I'm Todd Phillips, the editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. We're here today with Richard Trevisan. He's the brand director of Genesis Motors Canada. And when Genesis arrived on the scene in Canada a few years ago, everybody thought this is disruptive, this new model of consumer direct. It was quite a lot of discussion around it and whether it could work in the industry. Well, it turns out it's worked out quite well. And it seems like the company may have been really ahead of itself developing protocols and procedures that actually work quite well in this pandemic world and probably a post-pandemic world we're on. So, Richard, thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Todd. It's my pleasure to be here in this modern virtual conference and interview type. So I'm glad that you set it up.
Well, I'm really glad to hear have you join us here today because we're really curious to see, and maybe we'll start out really by having you describe, the intro. I described a little bit of the model, but obviously you know it much more in depth. I mean, describe sort of the Genesis business model and how it applies to a consumer in Canada.
Yeah, so let me start with some little bit of history. Genesis, we like to say it's a 3 years old brand, and we say actually it's a 3 years young brand because we're really developing and growing into the next phases of our sales and brand growth strategy. But let's start with November 2016 was really the benchmark when Genesis became a standalone luxury brand of the Hyundai Motor Group. And in Canada, the decision was made how to launch this brand, differentiate it, and make it innovative. So the first element was speed to market. So speed to market was how do you set up a network from scratch, and how do you keep that luxury brand perception and education for the consumer. So what we did, we launched a new business model, and instead of having the standard franchise dealers, we set up what we call Genesis distributors, agents. And these agents are our representatives. So it is really a unique business model in the sense we're taking direct sales. So when you, as a consumer, buy a Genesis, you're always buying it from Genesis Motors Canada. And at the same time, our distributors, our local agents, are really bringing that local expertise, community feeling, and that additional personal touch to the consumer. So that was number one, speed to market, set up a unique business model. We also, to do that, we also had to select the best partners. So we took our top Hyundai performing business partners. We also made sure that we were looking at the right marketplace, luxury marketplace, luxury cluster. So that's how we selected our first 18 distributors. Then the second element was, what about the consumer? And we wanted to provide consumer control. When you buy a vehicle, you as a consumer should be in full control. How do you do that? Online. So like from the comfort of your home, from the comfort of your cottage, from your office, you can actually do the full purchase of a Genesis. Well, when I say control, it's really you as a consumer, first of all, have the full control of the configuration through our online purchase. Then you decide, okay, I want to lease, finance, or pay cash for this vehicle. And everything is transparent. So one price across Canada, all inclusive pricing. And that it's the other element that we call respecting the consumer. There's no, I have to worry about one price being higher in one location than the other one. So we really made a big focus into the consumer experience and giving you, the consumer, full control of the purchase experience.
Well, it's an experience that others are trying to replicate bits and pieces of that in the midst of the pandemic because dealerships were closed, obviously. So a lot of people were sort of dealers and other brands were trying to accelerate their online process. What was it like watching this unfold in the midst of the pandemic as other brands became converts to sort of this online model, I guess, through necessity?
Yeah, first of all, I think, and like my colleagues in the industry, we can say this was really the worst time for the automotive industry, not just in Canada, but around the world. So lots of lessons learned. And for Genesis, if I go back to what I was saying before, our strategic advantage was that you or not you, but like consumers can actually do everything from home. So even if there is a lockdown or taking care of the full safety of the consumer, even when various provinces shut down dealerships, we were still operating. And that wasn't designed for COVID-19. That was designed, as I said, from scratch, from the beginning in 2016. Again, thinking about how do we make the consumer comfortable? How do we bring the showroom to your house? That's really the key. And so during COVID-19, we were bringing the showroom to the consumer's house because you were doing everything online. When I talk to our distributors, I like to say our website traffic is your showroom traffic, because that's for Genesis. Our showroom is a digital world. It's in front of you, be it on your iPhone or your laptop. That's the showroom. So in COVID-19, we were ensuring that the consumer had all this in their home. And then from the point of view of safety, we come to you strategy. So that means we bring the car to you for a test drive. That's another that's another element of our brand DNA, that we come to you for service, for test drive, even for delivery. And that also facilitated our situation during COVID-19. Of course, taking social distancing precautions, but we could bring a car to you to test drive without you going to an external location, which could not be potentially saved.
So in the midst of that, then, I guess if the business model was intact, and obviously demand was down all over the place for a whole bunch of reasons, economic factors and otherwise. But how was business through the pandemic? I mean, because you weren't limited by having people go to your physical dealership. How did Genesis do during the last few months in terms of business and sales?
Yeah, so let me start with two elements. One were the provincial protocol from COVID-19. So in Ontario and Quebec, you couldn't even actually offer a test drive in most of March and April. So that of course was an handicap, because a consumer needs to experience a car. We're talking about ergonomics, from the sensorial experience to the technical experience to the basic ergonomics. That's a car fitness. So if you cannot test drive, it's very hard to sell a vehicle. We all know that. So that was for sure a slowdown in our sales. But I like to say, like I said before, the showroom traffic, I'm proud to say we were up plus almost 25% traffic went up in April on our website. So the fact that more consumers were at home was very good for a new brand like Genesis, that is an online brand where the consumer could get the right information and education from the comfort of your home. So sales, we're doing everything possible to ensure that we provide the experience to the consumers even during COVID-19, and that's really our target. Don't slow down our brand awareness. And as you're aware, a new brand needs to create awareness. We have the GV80, our brand new first time for Genesis into a SUV market that's coming into the fall. So we're also preparing that. So we're not slowing down any of our plans. Our production is in South Korea. South Korea was one of the top countries to manage COVID-19. So we have that positive advantage too from fall deliveries.
Is there, in terms of how the market is shifting, do you see that you've learned things during COVID that you're going to adapt moving forward? Things that, even with further restrictions in terms of your operation, are the things that you as an organization learned that you're going to adapt as takeaways?
Yeah, one takeaway is making the online experience even easier to navigate through. So the customer journey, digital customer journey, there's always room to improve there. That's technology. So that's something that we've been looking at during COVID-19, and we made certain changes to make it easier for the consumer, even to find the simple thing like lease and finance rate. The customer journey has to be very intuitive for a consumer. So we made changes there. And then things to improve for the future is actually, as we launch new products, we also increasing what we like to say the suite of standard equipment from the point of view of safety and convenience, technological convenience in our cars. What does that mean? That the consumer needs more time to absorb all these new features in the car. So we are looking at ways to increase the educational tools for the consumer. So from a virtual concierge to creating apps to educational videos, because our cars are, there's more and more technology, and you always need the first delivery. There's never enough time. The consumer is excited about picking the car up. They don't want to stay 2 hours listening to our Genesis experience manager explaining all the features. So we have to find ways to improve that customer education. So when you get home, you say, okay, today I want to learn about active drive assist from the point of view of cruise control. Then you as a consumer choose when to do that. And that's what we're trying to improve.
Well, it sounds like you had a head start, at least 3 years plus in Canada, of selling cars online and dealing with customers remotely and with all the sort of elements of providing that elevated concierge experience. And it sounds to me that you're wanting to continue that advantage by continuing to keep pushing your technology and your experience. So kudos to you for that. And any last thoughts about how the longer term impact of this pandemic on the industry in general and the car buying experience?
I think the main thing is really respect the consumer and provide the convenience that the consumer is looking for. So it's not only online. You still need the let's say the brick and mortars, especially in the car business. A consumer needs to touch and try the product that they're purchasing. So for us, for Genesis, the next level is a continuation of our network expansion. We just opened, for example, a new partner in the Eastern Townships. Genesis is 3. And then the next big step is really bringing brand centers across Canada, where you as a consumer, you do all your shopping online, but then you say, okay, I want to experience the brand. Where do I go? And you will go to a Genesis brand experience center where you can experience the brand and test drive not just one product, but the full portfolio of the Genesis product. So this is really the next phase of our evolution in this great market.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out to explain that to us. And as I say, a lot of eyebrows were raised in the model, but now I think people wouldn't look at it and see it as anything all that unusual, in the sense that it's going to become a part of the new normal anyways, providing more of these online tools. So congratulations for being ahead of the curve, and thanks for sharing your time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for your time, and wish everybody a good recovery.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. Signing off.